All right, well, welcome back. We are so excited that you guys are tuning in once again. Before our next guest speaker comes on to speak, I wanted to do our raffle drawing for our 11th hour, which is our 11 winners. And each of you will be receiving one of these hand-painted Believe Big ornaments. So they'll be sent to you. And they're just amazing. Since Bobby was talking about tree decorating tips, we thought we would have a Believe Big ornament to add to your tree. So thank you for those of you who have been donating. We are in midday. We're going to give you an update of how many donations we've collected thus far. But at this point, I want to thank those who have been giving online. And the winners of the 11th hour, the 11 winners are Christine Roach, Ed Coyle, Alicia Villa. Is that right? Two L's? Villa or Villa?
Well, if it's Hispanic, it's Villa.
Villa. I'll say Villa. We have Willie Lieberman. Thank you, guys. Heidi Kelly. Oh, good job, Heidi. Dave Budemeyer. Richard Kapinski. I should have had you read these. Doreen Letchler. Thank you, Doreen. Kevin Forsyth. Cindy Gardner, and last but not least, Janet Dubinsky. Thank you guys so much for donating, and they'll be going right back in because throughout the day you'll be able to win some more amazing raffles. So I wanted to go ahead and introduce you guys. Jennifer is so kind to be able to do this little mini interview with
full time with Believe
We're
Big
going to
now.
just keep her for the whole day.
That's right.
So Jimmy, thank you for all that you did for me during my battle and for helping Believe Big.
Seems like a long time ago, doesn't it?
It's 9 years today.
9 years. That's a big deal.
Yeah. So I'll let you guys get to it.
Okay. Let's do it. Thanks. Good job.
Great to be back here on Founders Day at Believe Big with Jimmy and Evilise Page, of course, the founders, the co-founders of Believe Big, and so much to celebrate today, right?
It's amazing. You know, it feels like a different life in some ways. Like it's so long ago that we were in the thick of the battle that you forget about it over time. And it's things like this that remind you of the miracle of being healed from cancer.
Right.
Yeah.
And so much to be thankful and grateful for, and to see how that experience has turned into all that now is Believe Big and the incredible mission that this organization has. I'm Jennifer Gilbert from Fox 45, and I am very proud to be associated with this organization as an advisory board member. And it all started with my introduction to Jimmy and Evilise 4 or 5 years ago when we were doing a story on one word. Jimmy's book, The One Word That Will Change Your Life. And we talked about the amazing power of this little book and how many lives it touched as people chose a word for the year instead of a New Year's resolution, really focusing on one word to sort of guide you through that year. So I was introduced to Jimmy to do the story on the book, and of course through Jimmy learned about Evilise's journey with cancer, and one thing led to another, and that's how I got involved with Believe Big. But it all started with one word, which has now grown into so much more, right?
Yeah, well it really has. I mean, the cool thing about one word and those circumstances were when you came, you knew nothing about the cancer journey that Evilise had gone through. Right. And I remember thinking, you know, the bigger story became her word for the year for 2009, which was as she was recovering from cancer. Her word was believe. And all of a sudden, this thing took on a new life. And it really showed the impact of how focusing on one word can help you overcome obstacles or challenges, things that you think are insurmountable, impossible to overcome, that simple exercise of focusing on one word can really get that done.
Absolutely, and it was amazing. And in our story, we told how many organizations, how many individuals, that people that adopted this philosophy, people that might have been going through certain challenges in their life, or people that, you know, wanted to be motivated, a sports team to be motivated, whatever it was, really just using that power of one word. And so that was then, and now because
and this is now.
This is now because, you know, Jimmy is never one to settle for one level. The next level is life word. Now, I really appreciate you sharing this book with me and having read it back in the spring. And I have to tell you, this is a little intimidating to me. When you talk about your life word.
Yeah.
First of all, tell us what life word is.
Well, it can be intimidating because when you think of one word for the year, you know that in 12 months you'll be able to select another word. So if you pick a word that you don't like at some point during the year,
really
like
working,
yeah, it's not working.
Up to that.
My word is patience, which I don't recommend.
Right.
Because
or calm.
Don't
calm. Pick calm if you're a mom.
If you're going to select one word for the year, it should be vacation or something of that nature. But so that word is something that happens over and over again. It's all about life change. What do I need right now to change? And life word is all about legacy.
Right.
So it's selecting that one word, that guiding force, that driving force that will help you stay focused. Kind of beginning with the end in mind.
Right.
And so that you can align all of your priorities, your actions, all of your efforts around living a life that really matters.
Mm-hmm. And I don't want to take too much away from the book because we certainly want people to read it. But what you just said is starting at the end and thinking backwards. So how do you want to be remembered?
Yeah.
What do you want people to say about you at your funeral?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a morbid way of thinking about it, but it makes you think, right?
It really does.
It puts in perspective.
Well, I had a couple of funerals almost back to back several years ago, and every time you go to a funeral, I think you're reminded of how short life is, and that life is really a gift, and it's a gift to be lived in such a way that honors God and that really makes a difference. The older I get now, the more important every day becomes. So as I consider that life is short, and what am I going to do with that? What am I going to do with that life? So if we begin with the end in mind and we start to ask, hey, what do I hope that the people that are closest to me will say about me, about the difference that I made in their life, about the impact I had at them on their lives at my funeral? What do I hope that they say? And then once you get your hands around that, you start to work backwards, live your life backwards, and say, well, how do I need to live today to produce that kind of impact? Mm-hmm. And that's where life word comes in. Life word gives you that one singular word that kind of helps to define who you are, why you're here, and what kind of difference you're going to make in the course of your lifetime.
And I think, you and I are roughly the same age and at sort of the same stage in life. And you really do reach this point, both of us having lost parents in fairly recent history, that you do think about things differently.
Yeah,
you realize we kind of move up one rung on the ladder.
Yeah. Thank you. We weren't getting really serious, but now we are. Thank you.
Well, we used to think.
Are we that old? I mean, what?
Used to think, right? It was like our grandparents were the older generation than our parents, and you realize that. My point is that it's you want to think about what imprint you're making in life.
That's right.
And that we're not promised tomorrow.
That's right.
And I think, too, and being at this stage in life with children at various ages, that we're caught up in the day-to-day. I have to run this errand, we have to get to this sports practice, we have to go to this. But when you really think about, what's it all about? Yeah. What are we living for? It helps you to sort of prioritize what you're doing day-to-day.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, in this past year in August, I had an opportunity to do the eulogy at my father's funeral, which was a super challenge. I spent some time really thinking about that, inviting other people into that process. And I asked them to pick one single word that would have defined my father's life. So each one of us, in our own way, in our own experience with my dad, with their grandfather, with their friend, had an opportunity to speak into that. And I think one of the things that was an overriding theme in my dad's life was the word teach. And he was an educator for 32 years. He invested his whole life into the next generation of students coming through who would eventually be leaders in our communities, and politicians and lawyers and news show hosts, and would really be making a difference. So his word was teach. And it had a profound impact on me as one of his sons, and those around him. And I think it really helped define his energy, his effort, in the way he was going to live.
What a great legacy!
Yeah,
absolutely. And so we think about these things, and we think about living our lives in a way that's meaningful and purposeful, and really the mission of Believe Big really ties into that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And this is a way. Today on Founders Day and looking at the mission in the big picture, that people can really help to make a difference and live their lives purposefully.
They really can. And this is a reminder, I think, for all of us, that not to get lost in the busyness of life, not to get lost or distracted by the chaos and the pace of things, but instead to say, hey, I'm going to live each day with purpose. I'm going to tap into the things that I'm most passionate about. I'm going to fulfill my God-given potential. And this single word helps to be a guide to do that. It helps keep you on track and help you from kind of waking up one day and say, how did I get here? You know, instead you live with a great degree of intentionality and purpose. And the next thing you know, everything in your life is designed. You know, I'm a firm believer that we live our best life not by chance, but by choice. And that every day gives us an opportunity to live with intentionality, with purpose. So that's what this book is designed to do, to help narrow the focus, keep you on track so that your life really does produce something beautiful.
What response have you gotten from LifeWord?
It's been an incredible journey because as you started out by saying, this feels like a weighty book. You know, it's a little book, but boy, it's powerful, right?
It's asking you to do something very big.
Very big.
Yeah.
And so everyone that starts this journey feels that same thing, like, oh my gosh, a life word. Once they go through the process and they invite other people into that process, the transformation that happens, the clarity that they get, the sense of purpose and destiny is profound. I'll tell you a quick story. We were working with a coach in East Asia, a coach of an elite tennis team, girls tennis team. And the team was super talented, but they were struggling. And the coach he decided, I'm going to invite in each one of the girls and I'm going to ask them one simple question. So he's going through this process and he gets to the very end and he brings in his most talented player. And he says, hey, I have one simple question. Why do you play tennis? And without even hesitating, she said, I want to be famous. That's simple. I want to be famous. So the coach goes over to the whiteboard and he draws a tombstone. And he writes the word famous across the tombstone. And he just lets that settle in a little bit and he watches his player's reaction. And she sat there like, yeah, that's it. And he said, okay, let me ask you a question. Is this big enough? You know, is this important enough? Is it going to make a difference for anybody but you? What kind of mark are you going to leave with this word? And she sat there and she started to tear up and she got really emotional and she said, you know, no, that's not the word at all. She said, I want to inspire the next generation of young girls to know that they can live a life that overcomes challenges and obstacles and anything in their way, and that their life can have purpose and meaning. Because she came from rough circumstances and she knew what it would take. So she wanted everything that she did from there on out to inspire the next generation of young girls to become everything that they're made to be. Mm-hmm. So the coach, you know, goes over and erases that word, right, and says, maybe that's not big enough.
Yeah. So there it was. It was in there, but it was a matter of peeling back the layers and going through the process to think through what really the motivation was.
That's right. Yeah, it got to her why. And I think that's the thing that this book does. It reconnects you to your purpose and why you do what you do. You know, it's not enough to just be good at something and talented. You've got to connect to your why. People don't burn out because they don't like what they do. They burn out because they forget why they're doing it. So this book helps to reconnect you to that purpose, that sense of destiny, that sense of really making a difference in the world.
And you walk people through that process in the book.
Yeah, we do. We take you through a simple process to discover your power, your passion, and your purpose. And that sounds daunting, but it is super simple in the book. And in the end, you'll discover your life word, and you'll try it on for size, and you'll start to align everything in your life about living behind that with a sense of purpose. And you'll be surprised at how fulfilling and joyful and enjoyable life gets.
Jimmy, how can people get your book?
Simplest way is to get it on Amazon.com. But if you email today, are we texting? Are we emailing? What are we doing?
They'll have 10 winners get to win it for free.
10 winners today.
Win the book.
Make a donation online, and you get a chance to win.
That's great, absolutely. And then just as we wrap up here, your message that you want people listening to really resonate in terms of Founders Day, Believe Big here in Glendon.
Yeah, I think that nothing is impossible for God. That this is an organization that is dedicated to breathing life into difficult situations and is really seeing lives change forever. The relationships changing, physical healings, spiritual encouragement. This is an organization that is really making a difference in the cancer community and in the families beyond that.
All right, Jimmy, thank you. Jimmy Page, the author of One Word and Life Word, co-founder of Believe Big. Thank you for your time this morning. Thanks to all of you. Please stop by here at the Believe Big offices in Glendon. Go online, make the donation, and we're doing the raffle all day long. You can win copies of Life Word, so make sure you're making that donation as you believe big today.